Patrick O'Flynn was really getting at wasn't, certainly speaking to him, Nigel Farage himself. It was really about the people around Nigel Farage. He was suggesting that there's a set of extreme right-wingers, what he calls people from the American Tea Party movement and their ilk, who are surrounding Nigel Farage and are advising him. He said that they are putting Nigel Farage in the position where he is putting across an aggressive point of view, an aggressive face, and Patrick O'Flynn says that's not good for the party. Interestingly, he was at pains to point out that he thought very carefully before making this intervention today, and in particular that he was not doing this for his own advantage, but that instead he is concerned about the future of the party. He said he had nothing personally to gain from this and politically only things to lose, because of course this could put his career at risk.
Well, my concern is that there are a couple of advisors who've attained undue influence on the direction of the party, who are pushing it in a direction that will not help UKIP fulfil its historic destiny, which in my view is to help the argument and the referendum to persuade Britain to vote to leave the European Union. And that means reaching out to as wide a section of the electorate as possible, not pursuing a narrow, aggressive American Tea Party type agenda.
And you, in particular, have a concern that Nigel Farage's style has changed over the last few weeks and months. Just explain that. Well,
I think we've seen too much of aggression. We've seen too much complaining. You know, in my view, when someone suffers in politics slights from the media, whether perceived or real, or whether justified or unjustified, the best way to behave is chin up and keep making your arguments. And if you have been unfairly treated, then the audience will respond sympathetically on their own account. To be making complaints, you know, and to be showing an aggressive demeanour to the public, I don't think it's Nigel's natural way. I much prefer him as an ebullient, cheerful, optimistic politician, and I think that's the way he reaches out best.
And you think recently he has been putting across instead that aggressive persona?
I think he's had people around him who've not only got, as I say, an American Tea Party type political agenda themselves, but are also intoxicated with the tactics perhaps of the right wing of the American Republican Party, which is very much about attack and aggression. And I don't think that works in British politics. I don't think British voters are attracted to it. And I don't think it allows Nigel to show the best of himself to the British public.
You described him this morning as behaving as like a snarling, aggressive man. Is that a fair description?
I think in certain instances during the campaign, that is what has been happening, and it hasn't, as I say, it hasn't shown the best side, the most attractive side of him to voters. And so I want to get back on the sort of agenda that we produced in our excellent manifesto, which I would say is described best as in the common sense centre of British politics, whether it be about increasing spending on the NHS or on defence or targeted tax cuts or the spending cuts on the EU and foreign aid. Those are things which resonated with the electors. I don't think pursuing any sort of American Tea Party thing, gun liberalisation, scrapping the NHS, whatever it is some of these people might want to do, that's not a fruitful way forward, neither for UKIP in elections, nor, it has to be said, for the Eurosceptic movement in the looming huge moment in British politics and British democracy, which is the in-out referendum, which we want to maximise our chances of winning.
You said Nigel Farage has let these people get close to him and influence him. You're presumably then suggesting that he's at least had errors of judgment as far as those decisions go.
Well, look, I think if people refer, don't they, to FaceTime with the leader, and if you have people who are quite skilled at elevating themselves into positions, you know, if they get too much face time with the leader, they can begin to push their own agenda rather than the wider interests of the party. In terms of errors of judgment, I've been very clear it was an error of judgment or bad advice or whatever for Nigel to say weeks in advance that if he didn't win Thanet South, he couldn't go on leading the party. It always occurred to me there was a risk that perhaps we would only have one MP, and that would be Douglas Carswell, who, as I understand it, has no ambitions whatever to lead the party, in which case it clearly wasn't true that he couldn't lead the party. But that got Nigel into an awful and completely unnecessary tangle, which involved not only him losing face, but other senior members of the party being treated slightly shoddily, unnecessarily so as well, and that has risked making us be perceived as a personality cult, or as I said, an absolutist monarchy, rather than the mature political party that we are.
Now, they're very strong comments, of course, from Patrick O'Flynn, and comments which have really set off a bomb inside UKIP today. We've had counter briefings, apparently, from some people close to Nigel Farage, suggesting that Patrick O'Flynn has personal problems and that these criticisms are a manifestation of this. We've had one senior UKIP figure announce he's leaving the party today. We've had one of the people understood to be those that Patrick O'Flynn is referring to say that, as far as he's concerned, he's got a job inside UKIP, close to Nigel Farage, until someone tells him otherwise. But Patrick O'Flynn really keen to emphasise that this is all about trying to put his party on the right track ahead of this referendum, which we're going to see either next year or the year after.